This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I am joined by potentially the new star of the heavyweight division in Nick Campbell. Nick, how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's good to speak to you for the first time. Obviously, you've just announced your management deal with Mark Dunlop and their management company. Just talk to me about that and the decision to go with Mark.
Basically, I met Mark around 4.5 years ago. Obviously, I live in Jersey. Mark used to live in Jersey. We know a lot of mutual people. And just when I had started getting in my head that I might think about boxing, got put in contact with Mark through a mutual friend, Alexander Burnett, and we ended up having a conversation. Mark told me to go away and get as much experience as I could in the amateur ranks, try and really, learn the trade. And then when the time came, if I wanted to turn professional, we could have a conversation about it. Obviously, with everything going on in the world at the moment, it seemed like a better time than any to have a go and crack on and start the journey.
I mean, talking about that, obviously, we're in difficult times at the minute with the COVID pandemic. Some people may have, suggested maybe wait a little bit. In your case, you're thinking now's as good a time as any. Why did you feel like that was the right decision?
I just feel like everybody's waiting for this to finish, and I don't think it ends in sight. So why hang about when I've got somebody like Mark who's going to push me, get me on as many shows as possible, get me as many fights as possible, as much training, as much sparring? Why wait? Why wait for a year and a half in the amateur game, maybe the Commonwealth Games or something that might not happen, and I can crack on now and get to it in the professional ranks.
So Nick, just reflect on me for your amateur pedigree then, and just tell everybody about the achievements you've had up north.
Well, I won everything there was to win in Scotland: the novice, intermediate, Scottish elite. It's also part of the Scottish elite boxing group. Travelled to Russia, Thailand, Lithuania, all over the UK, down in Sheffield, on camp with GB boys, sparring, like the Delicious Ori, Solomon Dacres, Courtney Bennett, getting experience, getting exposed to high level, which was invaluable. I've only had 15 amateur fights, won 11, lost 4. 4 that I lost were the GB podium boxers on split decisions mainly. So I think I done all right considering I only had 15 fights. I also had 7 knockouts on my card. So I think I done all right considering.
I mean, you mentioned the likes of Solomon Dacres there as well. With people like him, he's only just turned professional himself. He's got his debut announced for March. Is that again kind of a competitive edge when you see him turning professional? You want to also kind of compete at the same period of his career to effectively.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's been boxing a lot longer than me as well. I played professional rugby for 8 years, so I've got a lot of catching up to do. But it's not a problem. We just go and we work hard, and we catch up, close the gap, do what we need to do, get the fights, get the sparring. But I definitely, you look at a guy like that, and that's the sort of guys you want to be competing with and beating.
Nick, obviously, I was going to come on to the rugby in a little while, but as you've mentioned it there, I've read up about kind of your past with Glasgow Warriors, amongst others. Just kind of, why have you? Well, when did the decision come to turn to boxing and to leave behind your exposure as a rugby player?
I've always had a passion for boxing. My grandfather was a professional, so it's kind of running in the family. When I was young, I boxed as well. Never fought, but I trained around different clubs in Glasgow. But when I was about 14, came a point where rugby kind of took over, and it was my main priority. And I put boxing to the one side and focused on my rugby. Went through the Glasgow age groups, on to Scotland, then signed a professional contract. Was with Glasgow for 4 years. After that, in 2013, signed for Jersey. Played 4 years in Jersey, and just at the tail end of my last contract, I started thinking to myself, I've always wanted to box. I've always wanted to push myself and see how far I could go. And it was, it just felt like the right thing to do at the right time. I loved playing rugby, but it was just time for me to hang up the boots and swap them for boxing gloves.
You've clearly got an enjoyment for the physical side of sports. You've boxed and you've played rugby. In your opinion, though, with regards to training, which one can be more brutal or more taxing on the body?
It's a tough question because in rugby, it's the times you take a head injury is you don't see it coming. At least in boxing, you're prepared to be punched in the head. But now they're both tough sports. The thing with rugby is you can get any injured anywhere: ankles, knees, elbows, wrists, head. Boxing's a bit more limited, but the boxing training is definitely harder, more taxing.
Nick, tell me about kind of your style then. What should everybody expect to see from you as we begin to watch your career progress from this point?
Well, I'm 6'7", 115 kilos. I like to try and use my height. I like to come forward. I don't like to sit back. I'm not sit back and try and look flashy, put people under pressure, stick the jab out, use my height, use my reach, use my weight advantages, and try and put pressure on people and fight.
What initial plans have you got in place then, Nick, about kind of looking towards making your debut again? I know it's difficult times at the minute and shows, even though they're starting to come back this year, once again, we're only seeing maybe 6 or 7 fights on each card, whereas pre-COVID, you'd see 10, 11. What kind of plans have you got in place for your debut?
It's up to Mark. Mark's a man. He knows everything. He keeps his cards close to his chest and just wants me to get ready. But we're going to try and get out as many times as possible, possibly 3 weeks for the debut.
I mean, you've got it's a stacked division domestically. Some brilliant fighters around the UK in that heavyweight division. Are there any in particular who you've got your eye on at kind of the earlier stages of your career?
Not in particular, but to be honest with you, I'm not in this to play. I'm in here to try and win titles and try and push myself as far as I possibly can. I'll leave it up to Mark when that happens. All I'll do is just keep myself fit, keep myself ready, listen to my coaches, and when the time comes, whoever it is can get it. That's it, really, isn't it?
Final thing, Nick. What do you feel is kind of the minimum that you feel you'd like to or you could achieve throughout your career?
Listen, there's never been a Scottish British heavyweight champion or Commonwealth champion. And I think it goes without saying that the reason why I've done this is to try and achieve that. So that is the minimum goal. And then after you win that, anything's a bonus. You know the type of guys that are fighting at that level. So I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be, but I think I'm capable of doing it. And I want to go out and challenge myself against these guys, put them under pressure and beat them. And I just need to prove myself by, putting the hard work in, putting the hours in, listening to Mark, listening to the coaches, and just doing the business when it comes to the time. Right,
Nick, I appreciate your time this evening. I know you've just finished a training session. You're probably going to want to go home and relax a little bit now. I appreciate your time, though. I'm going to leave a final word to yourself for everybody who will tune in and follow your career and your journey from this point onwards. What would you like to say to them?
I'd like to say, everybody in Scotland, everybody in Jersey, get behind me. I'd like to thank my sponsors, StillageNet, Alex Burnett, Eddie Burns, for getting behind me at this stage. And, let's go have a journey. Let's have some exciting fights, some wars. Let's, get everybody together, get behind me, and let's have, some exciting nights.
Nick, I appreciate your time this evening. I'll keep in touch with you and, of course, with Mark, and we'll catch up again soon. Thank you for your time, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you.